Welcome to part 3 of my series on lizard brain in couples. Let's review how attachment is influenced by different parts of the brain. The limbic system wires us for attachment. The lizard brain triggers us to want to leave situations that feel unsafe. In a couple where one partner has avoidant attachment and the other has anxious attachment, the person with avoidant attachment is experiencing a fear of engulfment. The person with anxious attachment is experiencing a fear of abandonment. The avoidant attachment and fear of engulfment comes from underactive prefrontal cortex, and the anxious attachment fear of abandonment is driven by the limbic system. The person with anxious attachment has trouble regulating alone. The person with avoidant attachment has trouble regulating with another person. One way this polarization of attachment styles can show up is during a heated argument, one partner ends the discussion and leaves, perhaps going to bed, and the other partner becomes even more upset because they feel like the issue needs to be resolved and they're upset that person is exiting the conversation. Tips to consider in this situation are for the person who recognizes they have an avoidant attachment style to be sure to ask for what they need, that they need a break, and to be clear that they will return to deal with the matter when they're calm and thus not threaten abandonment. And for the person with anxious attachment to tolerate a rain check, to soothe themselves enough to say that they can handle giving the person space, and to trust over time that they do return when both partners are calm and resolve the issue. Let's review how Pete Walker describes different states and responses in couples based on fight or flight. A fight response can look like being defensive, aggressive, yelling, criticizing, or escalating a conflict. A flight response, which is more avoidance, can look like storming out, emotionally distancing, shutting down conversations. A freeze response looks like emotional numbing, dissociation, feeling paralyzed. And a fawn response is an appeasing behavior which prioritizes the partner's needs at the expense of the self. When both partners are triggered into a fight response, this can result in escalating arguments, yelling, blame, defensiveness, where one person is in an attack mode and the other one feels defensive back, and that can flip. In this pattern, one person is in a fight response where they're in an attack mode, triggering the other person to be in a flight response withdrawal mode. A pursuer-distancer dynamic where one escalates and the other shuts down. At some stage in a conflict, both couples may retreat into flight responses where they exhibit silent treatment, avoidance, and unresolved tension. If one partner is in a fight response involving being critical, the other partner numbs out and shuts down in a freeze response, which continues to frustrate the first partner. Another pattern involves one person being in a fight response, which simply manifests as being controlling, where the other partner responds in a fawn appeasing response to prevent the first partner from escalating into anger. Thus, one partner submits to keep the peace, reinforcing power imbalances. Another pattern looks more like a Cold War, where both partners are disengaged emotionally, leading to a loss of intimacy, one being in a fawn appease mode and the other in essentially a freeze or dissociated mode. Pete Walker, the author of Complex PTSD From Surviving to Thriving, gives the following tips, starting with identify and share primary trauma responses. Self-reflection. Each partner should reflect on which of the 4 responses they predominantly exhibit. Recognizing one's default reaction can aid in anticipating and managing it. Open communication. Share these insights with each other. For instance, one might say, I realize I tend to withdraw, freeze, when I feel overwhelmed. Develop joint strategies for each response. In this case, fight response, partners prone to anger or control can agree on timeouts during escalating situations, allowing emotions to settle before re-engaging in discussion. Flight response. For those who tend to avoid conflicts by staying busy or physically distancing themselves, setting aside dedicated time to address issues can be helpful. Freeze response. If one partner shuts down or dissociates, gentle prompts and creating a safe environment can encourage them to express their feelings. Fawn response. Partners who appease to avoid conflict should practice asserting their needs, while the other partner reinforces this by actively listening and validating their feelings. Establish safety and trust. Consistent support. Regularly affirm each other's efforts to manage trauma responses. This consistently builds trust and safety within the relationship. Non-judgmental attitude. Approach each other's responses with curiosity rather than criticism, fostering a supportive environment.